Okay, so we're starting our empathy circle for today. It's going to be a little bit shorter, and our topic is how might we bridge the social and political divides. And whoever would like to start, you can speak about anything that's alive for you as well. And we're going to have 5 minute uh, call. Just a second, I got the timer. I got egg timers. these are the new. I just got a new shipment of
Oh, cool.
5 minutes, and this is for in-person ones too. So, whoever would like to start, I'll and select who you'd like to speak to, and we can get going on the topic. And you can talk about anything that's alive for you as well. So, anybody want to start?
Okay, I'll start. Okay. I'll talk to Alex.
Okay.
Okay, thanks. I believe that in order to understand the political divide, one needs to have new definitions. If you call Donald Trump a populist and if you call Bernie Sanders a populist, populist has no meaning. And so we need to, and one of the reasons, again, that the empathy circle is so powerful for me is that we need to see people as individuals and then grow a more detailed, a more nuanced, and a more respectful and supportive attitude towards our fellow man and woman. I'll stop there so you can.
Okay. So you're seeing sort of the current communication is kind of ineffective, the way of like labeling people as a populist or something like that. And you kind of needing a more nuanced understanding of people where you actually try and understand individual people through empathy and stuff like that. Is that what I'm hearing?
Sure. Yeah. What do I think? Again, I'll also take a look, and another example. They call in this country, they're talking about Medicare for all as being far left. And quite frankly, I don't see that. The last time you got an inoculation, was it a Democratic inoculation? Was it a left-wing inoculation? Or was it a right-wing inoculation? No, it's about healthcare, which is a basic right for us to be happy. And that should be afforded to conservatives and liberals alike. I'll stop there.
Okay. So specifically on the issue of healthcare, it sounds like there's like maybe some frustration or something because you see this as a basic need that people need. It's a basic. Everyone needs to take care of their health, and maybe you're seeing all this kind of divisive language is kind of interfering with that. People getting inoculations or whatever they're needing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then basically we are facing possibly species-ending challenges, and in order to meet those challenges, we're going to have to work together. War is out of the question because one of the greatest things is climate change, one of our greatest challenges, and then war just rips the environment, puts people at each other's throats, and essentially will just hasten our own demise as a species and possibly as a planet. So we've got to solve these problems, and we've got to work together. Bottom line.
Mm-hmm.
Stop there.
So So yeah, so you're really seeing cooperation as like the only kind of thing that's gonna kind of address these major issues that are kind of looming
Hmm.
for the human race.
Yes. Thank you, Alex. I feel fully heard.
Okay. Well, thank you. Does that mean that I go?
Yes.
You're right.
Okay.
Probably Caroline
Uh,
myself.
okay. Um, I guess I'll speak to Caroline. That's okay.
Okay, I will try. I must warn you that I don't speak English very well. I might have problems with understanding what you're saying. And actually, I don't hear very well what you're saying. Kind of, I'm losing words. But I'm trying. Okay, I'm trying.
Okay. Is it my headset specifically? Is there something that's hard
I
to
don't
hear?
know.
Okay.
Maybe the connection.
Okay. Okay. Well, yeah, I can try and just kind of compensate and speak slowly and stuff, and maybe
Thank
more
you.
loudly. Yeah. Okay. I'm trying to think about the topic because I've been a little out of it, so I haven't actually thought that much about it recently. How might we bridge social and political divides?
Or whatever is
Yeah.
alive for you.
Okay. Oh man. I guess just the initial thing when I like think about that question is it just feels I guess I have a lot of emotional baggage maybe associated to this topic because like I just start to feel overwhelmed almost instantly even trying to think about how to even discuss it or even how to begin approaching it. It just kind of brings up, oh yeah, sorry.
Okay, let me reflect. Not too much
Okay.
text from you.
Okay, sorry.
And so you didn't think a lot about the topic. You didn't have time to prepare for today's call. So you don't have kind of nothing special to say, but you feel kind of overwhelmed emotionally by the problem and the old stuff about political divides and how to bridge them. Is it correct?
Yeah. Yeah. Anytime there's a discussion about politics, yeah, I guess there's just some apprehension that, I mean, the problems just seem so huge and complicated, and yeah, it just instantly overwhelms me even trying to think about it.
So what I'm hearing, you feel overwhelmed emotionally by complexity of all the political problems and divides that happens today, nowadays.
Yeah, yeah, and not just politically, but so my girlfriend is a very big environmental activist, and she's kind of exposing me to different, she's just telling me, oh, have you heard about this thing that's happening to the ocean, or have you heard about this thing that's happening to the, some forest or something like that. And so I have these other issues, and I just think in order to have any kind of real opinion about this, I would want to spend so much time trying to learn about it, but I have other things in my life. So it's like, either I just sort of throw up my hands and I'm like, you know what, I don't know, I can't deal with it, or it seems like I have to make that like my life's focus. So I feel sort of like that's how the overwhelm feels, if that makes sense.
So what I'm hearing you saying that it's not just the complexity of political conflicts, but the kind of complexity of our social, economical, and environmental situation. The complexity of all the processes that happens in our environment, but also in society, and to resolve all the problems that appear as an effect of this complexity is kind of overwhelming to you, as I understand.
Yeah, and specifically, it's because I know so little about it that I struggle to figure out how much to prioritize it in my life. Like, should I just make my whole life's focus to like try and learn about all these different things? But there's other things that I want to do with my life that aren't activist at all. Like I like music. I want to play music and stuff like that. So I just struggle with the prioritization, because sometimes it seems like if you don't prioritize it, then like you're not going to have all the information to have a good opinion or something like that.
So what I'm hearing, it's a kind of problem of raising specialization and professionalism in any branch or industry or any area of our life, and to understand whatever we want to understand is very difficult because there is too much knowledge about every part of our life. And the other thing is it's hard to choose what to do, where to involve in, whatever it is, if it's our private or professional life or activity, social political activity. That's how I understand what you're saying. Is it correct?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, thank you. I think that was the 5 minutes, so you can go.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
I got the official 5-minute sign here.
I didn't know if that meant 5 minutes or you have 5 seconds left.
That was the time's up.
Was good.
Okay.
Okay. So now I choose Edwin.
Okay.
When I was thinking about the topic, today's topic, the first thing was, the first thought was that what actually is right and left? What is liberal and what is radical? What is right, conservative? What is progressive? Actually, I doubt about how we understand those terms. I think the idea of, well, I stopped there.
Okay, so when you're thinking about this topic, you're thinking of what is the right, what is the left, what is progressive, what is conservative, and it sounds like maybe there is some questioning of even what those terms mean or if they're even valid.
Mm-hmm. So it's not clear who is right and who is left on political scene. For example, when thinking about political divides on Polish political scene, for example, we have quite radical nationalists. They actually call themselves in Polish Obóz Narodowo-Radykalny, what means National Radicals Camp. They are kind of supremacist, nationalist. They are against refugees. They are very anti-Semitic and all that stuff. And most of other politicians and activists perceive them as right-wing. I believe, well, it's not nice for me because I'm radical left, but I have to acknowledge that they are actually left maybe not radical left, but they are on the left side of the political scene. They are fascists. For me, they are Nazi, actually. When I see their program, they are Nazi, but they are left. In their economical, social program, they are more left than right or central. For sure, they are not central, and for sure, they are not right.
Okay, so
I'm sorry, too much tech.
No, that was fine. That if I can hopefully get the essence. So there's a group that's that you see as very kind of fascist. That they're against Muslims, they're against immigrants, they're anti-Semitic. So the thing is they're seen as being on the far right, but their policies are what you would consider to be leftist policies. So they're sort of, you're seeing that they would actually, in a sense, be on the left too with some of their policies.
So yeah, so it's a huge problem for me it's very sad, because I don't want such people being perceived as left, but they are left. I have to acknowledge that. Not many of my colleagues or friends, political friends, would acknowledge that. Actually, it's a source of divides between me and my political friends. So the whole this situation changes the understanding of political divides, actually.
So this is like, it's like this idea of political divides, where people fall on the divides and what the divides are called, that you're seeing that this kind of upsets those categories.
Yeah.
And that you also have conflict between your friends who would not agree with you on too.
Yeah. Well, for me, for me, it's very sad, true. I don't agree with their argumentation, but I have to admit that in some points of their program, they are quite left. I'm sorry. It's very inconvenient for me. But the whole map of political divides is quite different from what we think it is, if you have such view like me.
Mm-hmm. So from your viewpoint, the map of these divides is much different than what is commonly understood.
Yeah, and for example, there is a huge group of left activists in Poland who got the nickname centrists, because they are on the left side, but they are criticized as those who, in their political criticism, they criticize the right wing. Well, I'm sorry, they criticize the economic situation and they kind of support the right wing. So, you know, it's quite the same problems. When I describe those who are perceived as a right wing or far right, and I say, no, they are left. So who am I? Am I centrist? Not at all. Okay, in my political view, I'm quite radical left. But I say that it's changed the political situation. So left activists criticizing present situation sound like they're right, or they support the right wing, and they are called centrist.
So there's just, you're kind of disagreeing with the labeling that there's a group on the left that criticizes the left. And
they criticize the situation on political and economy in Poland.
So they're like critics. They kind of are critical of the political and social, and that they're called centrists. So it sounds like all these different labels don't really make sense or need to be reimagined. That was fine.
I feel fully heard. Thank you.
I'll speak to Alex.
Okay.
Yeah, so let's see, bridging political divides. So it seems
Hey, Edwin, I'm sorry to interrupt. Bill hasn't reflected. I don't know if you want to. I don't know if that was part of the thing where everybody's supposed to get a chance to reflect and speak.
Well, you can speak to him next then if you want. So,
Okay. I just wanted to bring that up in case.
yeah.
Okay. Sorry to interrupt.
We do try to kind of keep it sort of balanced, but it's not, specifically necessary. I was trying to mix it up a little bit. So.
Okay. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, no problem. Sorry, there's a bit of construction going on. So, yeah, it seems to me there is a divide in terms of people willing to dialogue and people not willing to dialogue. So that's sort of a divide. And that's the one, I'm kind of really coming down on the side of dialogue. And there's some people on the left and the right who are not willing to dialogue. So I see that as sort of a spectrum. And then there's people who are maybe willing to dialogue, but don't know how to dialogue. So that's sort of one spectrum that I see.
Okay. So you're kind of cutting it a different way as opposed to left and right or something. You're kind of looking at who are the people who are engaging in dialogue across, I guess, engaging dialogue with people that don't necessarily agree with them, maybe, or something like that, or
exactly.
Have different perspectives. And then people who are kind of in their own bubble and they only want to talk to people who have a similar opinion.
Exactly.
And that's kind of the way that you're seeing it.
And there's also the dialogue, willing to dialogue with everyone and saying that we, advocating and supporting a culture of dialogue, and especially empathic dialogue, not a culture of debate, but of what we're doing here, really fully listening to someone, giving everyone more or less an equal, time and space. So I see that as sort of one sort of, way of being.
Okay. So kind of going farther with the idea of dialoguing with other people, taking it to the level of like really using empathy to try and understand them and kind of understand each other as human beings, kind of.
Yeah, deeply.
Not just talking about the issues.
Mm-hmm. And then,
okay.
And so when, we take the empathy tent out, and there was a right-wing group came to Berkeley to, have their free speech, which, everybody's legally allowed to do that. But then there was a huge counter demonstration from Berkeley. People from the left, because this is like a central, Berkeley is central to the left. I mean, it's one of the most left places probably in the country. And I invited the people on the left to come dialogue with the people on the right. I mean, to me, it seems like that's the thing to do. And nobody would do it. I mean, out of 30 organizations who were counter demonstrating, nobody would talk with them. And even the churches, somebody from the churches said, oh, we don't have time to talk to them. So it was kind of a shock to me to just see that the left also is very much into not dialoguing. So yeah, it was a real eye-opener to me.
Mm-hmm. So kind of not really conforming with your what you perceive the left as being. You would have expected them to be much more engaged in dialogue, and so it's kind of shocking and sort of like you're in like disbelief that like there was so little willingness to even have a conversation.
Yeah, and you see that with Antifa and so forth. It's like, we're not going to talk. We're going to fight, And even if you talk with the people on the left, on the right, you're seen as almost like an enemy, So just even having a dialogue, you're saying, just look out, we're going to walk over you. I've heard that, from people who have said that from far left.
So yeah, so they're kind of enforcing this on themselves with like threats, but there's some fear of like, you can't even go out and talk to other people or you'll be kind of punished or exiled from the group or something.
Exactly. And I've heard the universities, a lot of are becoming like that. It's becoming very anti-dialogic. It's like we're right, they're wrong, and it's on the right as well. So on the right, I remember I went and there was in one of these rallies, there was some religious people on the right. And I would say, oh, I started talking, said, we can't talk to you either. But they were coming from a religious point of view, like you're the devil, you're Satan. And, you have all this dialoguing is almost like from the devil, right? Because it's questioning so it's on there. That's why I'm seeing there's the dialogic, and then there's the anti sort of dialogic, and I see those as sort of a divide.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, so you're seeing it on both sides, almost to like a comedic level to some degree, that people are just completely labeling you and blocking you off, like not even willing to have any kind of conversation with you. Like,
Yeah, I feel fully heard. That was my time too. Thanks.
okay, cool.
Your turn.
What happens now?
You choose if you want to
Oh,
choose Bill.
okay. Sounds good. If you're willing, Bill.
Yes, I'd be happy to listen to you.
Okay. Okay. Man, I don't. I don't know if I'm ready to go. Honestly.
You can even just say, I don't know what to talk about. I don't have anything. You get a reflection on that. You say, I'm fully heard. So that's way of just sort of passing it on if you don't have anything.
Okay. I guess so. I'm being reminded, especially reflecting Edwin, I'm being reminded of some of the conversations that he and I had like several months ago. And it's like slowly starting to kind of like come back to me, but I can't quite verbalize it yet. So I'm like still kind of just wanting to hear more before I kind of start thinking about it and talking about it.
Okay. So you're not quite sure what to, say. There's a lot of things going on in your head, and and some emotions too that I kind of feel. And this conversation has triggered conversations that you had with Edward several months ago, and you're just trying to kind of sit with it and make sense of it.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's like, I feel like hesitant to say this, but like there's some part of me that feels like discouraged. Like, I mean, like the conversations were really good, but I don't want to, like, I don't know. There's some discouragement, like that the same conversation is being had. I feel bad saying that, but like, I just would, I guess, man, I don't even know where to, maybe you can just reflect.
Yeah, absolutely. So you're thinking about it, and I'm not quite sure, and correct me if I'm wrong, but essentially what we're talking about now is things that you were also experiencing on the empathy circles several months ago, and you're kind of you're wondering, where's the progress? Where are we going? Where does this all lead?
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't want to like ignore the fact that I don't want to ignore progress or anything like that. So I'm not trying to like make a judgment or anyway. That's just kind of what came up for me. And at the same time, I'm like interested in having those conversations again. So like, there's a part of me that's like, oh, this is cool. Like we can start talking about it again. But there's still that part of me that's like, yeah, I guess just a little discouraged or something.
Okay. So you have some ambivalent feelings. On the one hand, you find benefit in the conversations and you find yourself drawn to them and would like to have them. On the other hand, you don't know exactly what it does to practically address the problems that we're facing.
Yeah, that's another way of putting it. yeah, I guess there's like some concern that maybe, yeah, like, what do you do after you discuss it? Like, what's the next step? Mhm.
So you're thinking about, okay, empathy circles, and we get these issues aired and they're out, and then what's the next step? Where does it go from there?
Yeah. But at the same time, I like really enjoyed doing these empathy circles when I was doing them, and I'm enjoying doing it now. And like I totally find a ton of value in it just from a personal growth perspective and everything like that. So I like, yeah, I definitely don't want to like suggest that this isn't something that's like incredibly valuable. Like I definitely want to like recognize the fact that I think it's very valuable to do.
Okay, so you want to recognize that you certainly don't want to belittle the benefit that you've gotten from the circles, or the value or the enjoyment that you're having now. It's just a question of what does that mean in the greater context and addressing, worldwide issues.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I think you got it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Great.
I feel heard. No, yeah, you were reflecting. That was really helpful. Yeah,
Okay.
it's good to see how I'm being perceived,
Mm-hmm.
how the message is being received. Yeah, cool. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Okay, Carolina? Okay. Well, I was feeling a few things. First of all, I want to express my appreciation for Alex because he's sitting in his ambiguity. He's sitting on the fence, and he's not running away from it. It's one of the most difficult things to do I'm sorry, go ahead.
So first what I'm hearing, you want to express your appreciation to the attitude that Alex presents.
Mm-hmm.
He kind of sitting on the fence and have kind of ambiguous thoughts, but still he want to struggle with it, do something with that, and you appreciate that.
Yes. And then I was struck by what you said about the left-wing group, which is really a right-wing group, or whatever it was a fascist group. And that's a pretty standard operating. The Nazis were actually the National Socialists. And they started by delivering free bread. And that's a pretty common thing. In the Irish immigrants were given free soup and bread by Tammany Hall, which was in New York, which is then a corrupt organization.
So now you want to respond to what I said earlier, and I was talking about the Nazi that are actually kind of left, not right wing, and you give some examples. You are giving some examples of some actions that are in their meaning quite left, giving bread or other such things is kind of understanding.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of left approach, okay? Mm-hmm. Thinking about simple, regular people.
Right. But then we're quite...
And you mentioned that actually Nazi means National Socialist.
Right. I'm just saying that both of these, even though they did that, were criminal organizations.
And what you want to admit that, which is very important, that those organizations you mentioned in Germany and Ireland, you mentioned.
No, actually, it was Tammany Hall was in the United States, in New York City.
Okay, in New York City, both those organizations are actually a criminal organization.
Right.
Yeah.
It brings me back to empathy circles, is that when we then have an individual experience of each other, we find out that we share a lot of common humanity. We certainly are not perfect, but we don't deserve, no one deserves to be mistreated.
Well, probably I lost something
Okay.
in this fragment, but as I understand you, you mean that whatever happens, that and what when any divide or differences or misunderstanding happen, still everybody should be respected, as I understand.
Right. The one thing that
As a human.
they should be, but that the empathy circles give them the experience of that respect.
Okay, so what I'm hearing, you mean that that empathy circle is a kind of tool to execute the idea of respecting the other person.
Thank you, Caroline. I feel fully heard. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So maybe change the route, the route, and I will choose Alex.
Okay.
Okay. And I would like to somehow respond to all what you were saying earlier. So I see a few ideas. First, it's kind of misunderstanding the labeling. The other thing is kind of attitude. Edwin actually mentioned that on any side of political scene, people have different attitudes. Some of them want to talk and want to communicate, and other don't. Other just label their opponents and do not want to establish any communication with their enemies. I stop there.
Okay. Okay. So you're thinking about things that Edwin said. Am I understanding? And so you're kind of rethinking through some of the things that he shared about.
Well, what I meant was that I see few ideas that appeared during our today talks. I was talking about labeling and misunderstanding what right, left, and center might mean. Edwin, what was interesting in what Edwin said was that on every political camp or side, you have people with different approach. Some of them want to talk, communicate with the opposite side. Some of them just hate, label the opponents and don't talk with them. And there is a third, the third thing I somehow hear in your talks, probably I think it was you, Alex. Maybe you didn't say that, but I kind of figure out that maybe not just talk, but also do something together. That's kind of higher level. First, I believe we should try at least communicate. I stop there.
Okay. Okay. I think I'm starting to understand. So, so you're just kind of thinking about all things that have been said and things that were interesting and kind of piecing together things. So Edwin had talked about people that don't want to really communicate with others outside of their group, and then people who are willing. And then I had talked about some feeling of what's the next step after talking. And so you're kind of you're thinking about the relation between what I had said and what Edwin had said.
And well, when I'm thinking about possibility of communicating with the other side, I want to give you an example. Well, that might give you hope, Edwin. I'm actually Antifa, but I would like to talk to some fascists. I would like to. I believe one day in Poland here, I will have this opportunity. So, and I'm trying to learn empathy dialogue. So maybe it's not that bad that somebody who is kind of Antifa activist want to talk. But in Poland, well, I stopped there. I'm sorry.
Okay. So, yeah, so you're kind of maybe hopeful, you're feeling hopeful that you're a member of Antifa. And even though Edwin had said, he hasn't found them to be very communicative, you yourself are an example of someone who is willing to communicate. So kind of see some hope in that. Am I kind of understanding?
Well, maybe I'm not full of hope, but I try to give hope to Edwin.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
Actually, right now, I can't imagine the situation when I talk to some fascist or Nazi, but I kind of feel that I need to do that in one day. What I want to give shortly example, there are some groups in center and on the left side of our political scene that want to, attention, delegalize those fascist Nazi organizations. And I must say, I disagree with that. I disagree with that. I stop there.
Okay. So you're seeing this this desire to just delegalize even the existence of certain groups, and that's something that you're kind of feeling some resistance against. You don't really agree with.
Yes, because such an action stop communication. Okay, it doesn't stop the activity of those organizations at all. They will just go underground, and Polish people are actually very good in underground action. We have a huge 200 years history of fighting underground. We are really good in it. So it's not even tactically good idea, but the most important thing is that delegalizing your opponent stops communication, and that is the straight way to the war, actually.
Okay, so you're seeing this kind of critical flaw to the plan of delegalizing them, which is that it's just going to shut down communication, but it's not actually going to make them go away. And from what you know of the history, they're just going to continue to function, and without communication, and it's only going to make things worse, basically.
Yes, I mean that Polish specialty is fighting underground, but the most important thing in this fact is that delegalizing your opponent stops communication, and when there is no communication between enemies, there might be only a war between enemies. That's the most important thing.
Okay. So you're really seeing this importance of communication between people who have a difference of opinion or desire, and you really don't want that to be shut down.
Because it leads to the war.
To war. Okay. Mm-hmm.
Domestic or international, it always leads to the war. Okay, thank you.
Okay, we just have 10 minutes left, so we could maybe just stop here and then just do sort of a debrief. Unless anybody, yeah, is that okay? Unless you feel like super, like you really have to say something. Okay, so.